Hello everyone, I welcome you in the virtual classroom of managerial economics. In today's lecture, we are going to start unit number 2. This is the last unit of your syllabus. The name of unit number 2 is production function. This unit is divided into two parts. The first part is regarding economies and diseconomies of scale, and the second part is of production function. And in today's lecture we will start with the first part, that is economies and diseconomies of scale. Let us see the introduction first. The scale of production has an important bearing on the cost of production. It is a common experience of every producer that cost can be reduced by increased production. The scale of production has a direct relation with the cost of production. Scale of production has direct relation with cost of production. What do you mean by scale of production? As we know that the business units are divided on the basis of size into three categories. That is small scale, medium scale and large scale. On the basis of production, if you produce less, then it is a small scale, and if you produce more, it is a large scale. That is about scale of production, and it is said that it is having direct connection with the cost of production, or we can say it is having the inverse relation with the cost of production. As the size increases, the cost of production reduces. In the small scale organization, the cost of production is very high, and in the large scale organization, the cost of production is very low. Take the example of the local farsanwala. You must have experienced that when you are going to buy any wafer, then the big companies like Balaji is there, Lay's are there, they are able to sell you in 5 rupees packet. Whereas this local farsanwala will never be able to sell in 5 rupees, because that much will, in fact, the cost of their production will be more than 5 rupees. Why? Because they are producing in a small scale and the companies are producing on a large scale. So what is the crux of this discussion? When you are producing more, your per unit cost of production is decreasing. I am not saying total cost of production decreasing. It will definitely increase when you will increase your production, but your per unit cost will reduce. Why? Take an example. Suppose you want to produce one unit only, and for one unit you need to purchase raw material and you need to hire the labor. Getting it? And you need to pay the wages to the labor. Now keep the raw material aside, that say for example you are purchasing one unit and you are producing one unit, and if you want to produce more you will purchase more. So it is having a direct and one-to-one relation on price of a product. But if you take the example of labor, say for example that per day wage of labor is 100 rupee, and if you will produce one unit, then also you need to pay 100 rupee, and if you are producing 10 unit, then also you are going to pay 100 rupee only. So when you are paying 100 rupee, and if you are producing one unit, the cost of production will be 100 rupee, and if you are producing 10 units and you are paying the wages of 100 rupee, your per unit cost of production will become 10 rupees only. Getting the point? That when you are increasing the production, your cost of production is going to decrease. It is having inverse relation with the scale of production. Then it is a common experience of every producer that cost can be reduced by increased production. As I have told you earlier, that when you are going to increase your production, your per unit cost will reduce. That is why the producers are keener on expanding the size or scale of production. Every entrepreneur, every industrialist knows the fact that if they will expand the business, their cost will reduce, Moreover, the size will increase, the credit worthiness in a market will be improved, and they will be able to sell in lower price, and their market share will be expanded. So many benefits are there when you are expanding the size of the business. The first benefit is of improved credit worthiness. The second benefit is your market share is increased, and you can expect a long run survival in a market. And the direct economic benefit is that your cost of production is reducing. So that is why so many entrepreneurs, when they are starting the business, they are having dream that they will expand the business. In the process of expansion, the producer may benefit from the emergence of economies of scale. These economies are broadly classified into two types, that are internal economies and external economies. As I told you earlier, that when we are increasing the production, the cost of product reduces, and that is known as economies of scale. These economies of scale are divided into two categories, that is internal economies and external economies. Here one chart is given. This is about average cost, and in acronyms we are writing it as AC. When we were discussing the unit cost analysis, we have discussed 7 concepts of cost: fixed cost, variable cost, total cost, average fixed, average variable, average total, and the like. So average total cost is written as average cost only. At that time also I told you that either you can write ATC or you can write AC. ATC means average total cost, and in every economic book, ATC will never be written, it will be written as AC, average cost. But ATC and AC both are same. At that time we have discussed that this shape of AC is U shape, which is represented here like this. On x-axis we have taken output. So when you will move from left to right, your output is increasing. Now you just pay attention on the shape of the AC. When you are increasing the output, your cost is reducing. Getting it? When you are increasing the output, your cost of production is reducing up to this point, Q1 point. So this phase is known as economies of scale, where production increases and cost reduces. But this benefit is available up to an point, because everyone, even a machine and a human being, everyone has a capacity. If you go beyond a capacity, you are not having advantage, it will be resulted into disadvantage. You know that too much of everything is disastrous. If you keep on increasing the production, then after a point of time your cost will not reduce, rather it will increase. Take an example that you are producing with the machinery. The capacity of machinery is to work 10 hours constantly. But for the sake of increasing production, if you run machinery for 12 hours, it will work, but the life of machinery will reduce. So ultimately, in long run, your cost is increasing. Say for example, if you would replace machinery after 5 years, if you continue run for 10 hours, then the life of machine is 5 years. But if you run more than 10 hours, take an example that if you run machinery for 12 hours, then it may happen you need to replace machinery within 4 years. So your cost of production increase, your cost of machinery will increase. Getting it? So what is the crux of the discussion? That after a point you will not have the benefit of reduced cost of production, but your cost of production will increase. That is known as these economies of scale. That can be depicted here. We have seen that in first part there is economies of scale. If you still move further from left to right, your cost of production is increasing and your output is increasing, and your cost of production is also increasing. So that is known as these economies of scale. Now you just compare the first part and the second part. In first part, output increases, cost reduces, And in second part, output increases, cost increases. First part is known as economies of scale and the second part is known as diseconomies of scale. In the first part of unit number 2, we need to discuss both economies and diseconomies of scale. So, I have given you the idea about what is economies and what is diseconomies in the introductory level only. Now, let us move ahead. Let us first of all see the economies of scale. Economies of scale further classified into two categories as we have seen in the introduction slide, that is internal economies and external economies. What do you mean by internal economies? If your cost of production reduces because of the reason situated within the organization, then it is known as internal economies of scale. I am repeating again. If your cost of production is reducing because of the reason available within the organization, then it is known as internal economies of scale. So, the definition of external will be quite clear. If your cost of production reduces because of the reason situated outside the organization, it is known as external economies of scale. Let us see what is written here. Internal economies highlight the advantages that a company obtains due to the use of modern techniques. Modern technique means because of the machinery if your cost of production reduces. I have told you that your cost is reducing because of the internal reason. Machinery lies within the organization. That is why it is termed as internal economies. Now let us see the external economies. External economies are the advantages that a company obtains because of external factors. As I told you earlier, that if your cost of production is reducing because of the reason which is situated outside the organization, then it is known as external economies of scale. Now let us discuss in detail internal economies. When a firm expands its scale of operation, its scale of production, the economies which accrue to this firm are known as internal economies. When you are increasing the production and your cost of production is reducing, it is known as internal economies. The definition is having three parts. The definition is given by Cairncross. The definition goes like: internal economies are those which are open to a single factory or a single firm independently of action of other firms. As I have told you in the definition, that in internal economies, the reason is situated within the organization. So, for example, if you are using improved machinery, then benefit is to a single firm only, which is independently of the action of other firms. Here, your rival firm hasn't done anything. They don't have any influence on your firm. You yourself, on basis of your decision, you are increasing the production, and it is you only who are getting the benefit. That is known as internal economies. One thing must be clear, that the benefit of internal economy is available to single factory only. It is not a collective, it is not on an industrial basis. They result from an increase in the scale of output of the firm and cannot be achieved unless output increases. If you want to have the benefit of internal economies, the prerequisite is you must have to increase your output. As we have seen in the graph, that if you increase production, then your cost is reducing. If you don't increase production, you still stand here only, then your cost of production will stand here only. There will be no benefit of decreased cost of production. They are not the result of inventions of any kind, means there is no updation, there is no research done in the industry. but are due to the use of non-methods of production which a small firm does not find worthwhile. It is only because of you have changed your production technique and your cost of production reduces. The only reason we can say that when our technique of production is changing, then we are having the benefit of economies of scale. Take an example. In small firms, the production is done by the labor, and in large firm, the production is done by the machinery. And you know that machinery is having the more capacity as compared to labor, and that is why the large scale companies are having the benefit of reduced costs which a small firm does not have. Getting it? So internal economies are available only to the large firm, not to the small firm. The reason, the logic is very simple. Large firms are producing on a bulk size and small firms are producing in a small size. Now let us see the different types of internal economies. Here the list is given. Total 9 internal economies are there, which are: first one, technical economies; second, economies of continuation; third, labor economies; fourth, marketing economies; fifth, financial economies; sixth, managerial economies; seventh, risk bearing economies; eighth, economies of research; and the ninth one, economies of welfare. These all are the list of internal economies. Now let us discuss in detail the each internal economies. The first one is technical economies. Technical economies are those which accrue to a firm from the use of better machines and techniques of production. The name itself suggests technical means related to technology, and technology in simple word we find it with the machinery only. Getting it? So if you are having the benefit of economies due to technology, it means you are having the benefit due to machinery. And when machinery can give you benefit, if you are using the improved machinery, the latest machinery, that is written here, which accrue to a firm from a use of better machines. Better means the latest and updated machines. When you are using the updated machines, then definitely your cost of production reduces. Why? What are the updated machines? Where the capacity is improved. If the machine is updated, it means the capacity per hour production of machinery is improved. As a result, production increases and cost per unit of production decreases. The technical economies is further classified into 3 categories, which are: first one, economies of increased dimension; second, economies of linked processes; and the third one, economies of use of byproduct. Now let us discuss these 3 economies in detail. First one, economies of increased dimension. Certain technical economies may arise because of increased dimension. Means within the organization, within the same machine, with the help of same labor, you are improving your product, that is increased dimension. The example is given here. A double-decker bus is more economical than a single-decker bus. It is but obvious in double-decker the sitting size is sitting capacity is more as compared to single-decker. It will be exactly doubled. Getting it? But what is the benefit? Only one driver and one conductor is needed. So salary required to be paid is of only one driver and one conductor. If you go for a single decker, then you must have to go for 2 buses, and the task of 2 buses can be done by a double decker bus, whereas you are saving the salary of one driver and one conductor. So that is what economies of increased dimension. Then economies of linked processes. As a firm increases its scale of operation, it can properly be linked to various production processes more efficiently. For example, in order to obtain the advantage in a linkage process, both editing and printing of newspapers are generally carried out in the same premises. Take an example that if you want to produce any product, then there is a process of production. Phases are there. For if you complete first phase, then it will move for the second phase. After completion of the second phase, it will move for the third phase. Take the example of car only, and for let us assume that you are preparing the car's body. So first of all, there is an cutting of the ply, the cutting of the metal, then it will be polished, and then it will be shined. Getting it? Three activities are needed to be done for the preparation of car's body, that is cutting of the metal, then polishing, and then shining. So if you are having this three department at three different place, first of all cutting will be done, then it will be taken to another place for polishing, and then it will be taken to another place for the polishing, then it will take much time and your cost will improve. Instead, what you should do, you should keep these three processes together, that if the metal is cut, it will be automatically go for the polishing process, then no man is needed for transferring your metal sheet from the cutting department to the polishing department. So the salary of that labor is saved. Getting it? That is given here in the form of example of newspaper. In newspaper, two processes are there. One is editing and second is printing. If you are keeping these two departments at one premises only, then your cost of transportation will be saved. In the words of Professor Ken Cross, there is generally a saving of time, as I have told you that if you have the editing department situated at somewhere else, and if you are having printing department at somewhere else, then first of all labor is needed, and secondly you need a vehicle to transfer from one department to another department. So there is a saving of time if you are having both department at one place, and secondly saving in transport cost when two departments of the same factory are brought closer together than two separate factories. So all in all, we can say that if we are having the process of production, then all the phases should be situated near to each other so that time can be saved and cost of transportation can be saved. Then the third type is economies of the use of byproduct. A large firm is in a better position to utilize the byproduct efficiently and attempt to produce another new product. What do you mean by byproduct? Byproduct simply means anything which comes out of the production process by default, then it is known as byproduct. Take the example of the mango. If you are having the business of mango juice, then you can also have the business of that mango sweets, that we can say જેને ગુજરાતીમાં આપણે ગોટલીનો મુખવાસ બી કહી શકીએ છીએ. Getting it? So what this can be, who can do this? It is only a large firm. Why? Because they are having the extra finance to establish another plant for producing that sweet products or that spicy products, that we can term it as a mukwas. For example, in a large sugar factory, the molasses left over after manufacture of sugar from out of the sugar cane can be used for producing alcohol by installing a small plant. Take an example that you are having a sugar factory. You know very well that sugar is produced from the sugar cane, and after producing the sugar, whatever is left as a waste, that is known as molasses. From molasses, we can produce paper and we can produce alcohol as well. If a small firm is there, then they will sell this waste or they will throw this waste because they don't have extra money to establish a plant for production of paper or for the production of alcohol. Whereas what the larger firm will do, they will have they are having the financial power, so they will establish another plant with the help of which the waste will become the raw material of that plant. Means from the molasses they will produce paper and they will produce the alcohol. So with one raw material only they are having two different businesses. One is of sugar, second is of alcohol, and third is of paper. Getting it? This is all about the technical economies. We have seen that there are three types of technical economies, that is economies of increased dimension. We have seen the example of double-decker bus. Then economies of linked processes, means two processes should be situated near to each other so that the time and the transportation cost can be saved. There we have seen the example of printing and editing of newspaper. And the last one is economies of use of byproduct. Large firm can establish extra plant for production of a byproduct. Small firms cannot. We have taken the example of sugar factory. With the help of sugar cane, they are producing sugar, alcohol and paper, and small firm produces only sugar. Now let us see the second internal economies, that is economies of continuation. Continuation means simply means you need to continue your production. If there is any gap, if there is any break, then your cost of production will increase. How that happens? Let us see. Technical economy is also realized due to long run continuation of the production process. For example, composing and printing of 1000 copies may cost $200, but if we increase the number of copies to 2000, it may cost only $250, because the same sheet plate which has been composed previously can be utilized for the increased number of copies also. Here the example of newspapers are given, that if you are producing 100 copies, your cost of production is $200. Now according to this, if we are producing 2000 copies, our cost of production should be $400. Yes or no? But our cost of production is becoming only $250. So the per unit cost is reducing. Why? Because we are having a continuation of the production. We have not taken break after production of 1000. We have produced 2000, and 2000 copies can be produced with the same sheet plate which is produced for the 1000 copies. Take an example of the tiles factory. You know that tiles factory, they are having a huge machineries. Once they are started, then if you take a break, then it will take time for restarting it again, and the more energy will be utilized for the restarting. You may have experienced this when you are riding the vehicle. So for example, you are having a traffic signal and you know that you need to stop there for only 15 seconds. Then for 15 seconds you will not shut down your vehicle. Why? Because after 15 seconds, if you will restart your vehicle, it will consume more petrol. So better to continue it for the 15 seconds so that it will consume lesser petrol. So that is what the economies of continuation. We should continue our production, we should continue our machinery for having reduced cost of production. We are keeping our lecture here only. The remaining internal economies of scale we will discuss in next lecture. Thank you.